welcome to the live stream as promised. Sometimes I don't do a midweek live stream, but I thought we'd spend a bit of time together this Wednesday evening. So hello to Chris, hello to Graham. Good to see you on the phone on the stream, guys. And as others join, I'm going to be here for about 30-40 minutes or so. So just so that you know, and the format is going to be a wee bit different. I just want to talk about things that caught my eye, basically. So I hope you'll find it quite interesting as we go through the next 30-40 minutes or so. Chris, I see some of your questions here. Chris asks, did you see Matt Hancock and Piers Morgan? No, I would sooner, Chris, eat my own eyeballs than watch Piers Morgan. There's no way I'd watch that. It's a grim and awful program. But, aloha to Donegal. Nice to see you on the stream as well. Aloha. And Jed points out we now have super chats enabled on the stream. So if you want to get a priority point across to me or whatever, that's how you do it. Usual routine as we start off here, folks. If you're on Facebook, which some of you are, share it and like it. If you're on YouTube, share, subscribe, hit the notifications bell so that we get more traffic onto YouTube. All the other media channels you can get me on or down below in the descriptions. Make sure you're following on all of those. That'd be great. Big thumbs up if you like what we're saying, if you like how the show's going, and a thumbs down if, don't even worry about that. Don't even worry about that. And finally, last but not least, to support the channel, please go to altnewsmedia.net/donate. Have you done that recently? I know which of you have, and I know which of you haven't. Oh my goodness, Chris Davis is the first super chatter of the evening. Well, Chris, I'll be paying a lot of attention to what you're saying. Actually, I usually do anyway. You're one of the very great gang of people who make such sensible comments here. You know, the thing that keeps me coming back here is you lot. It's the fact that I think we've got such a great group, which I'm just so pleased to be part of. Hello, Simon. Hello, Philip. Hello, Ozzy. I see all you guys joining the stream. So yeah, shall we get stuck in then? We've done the preamble. I'm just going to bring up things. They're kind of just caught my eye. Hope you'll find them interesting. So let's go to the first one. Excuse me. Excuse me. Well, not a single case of flu detected in England this year as COVID restrictions suppress the virus. Oh my. Can you imagine my surprise at this one? Not a single case of the flu in 2021. But you see, as some would suggest, well, it's clear, but actually, do read below that. We just bring up the headline a bit. There's 2 points to this. If we can bring the, thanks. Experts say the decline in infections could justify continued use of hand sanitizers and masks following the pandemic. Oh, hi, Jackie. Nice to see you, formerly known as Miss Brexit on my Twitter stream. Yeah. So because of the flu falling, we might need to keep wearing masks. Hey, I don't know who this guy Samuel Lovett is, writing for the trash newspaper, The Independent. Calling it a newspaper is stretching credulity a bit. But it is interesting that there's been not a single case of flu, and that those who would argue, well, the reason there's no flu is because we're wearing masks and also because of the vaccines. And there are people who argue that, and one of them will be on the stream with me tomorrow night when Rebecca Butler returns. Here's a point for you to think about. If you think that it's vaccines and mask wearing and social distancing, hi Gary, which is dropping flu levels or raising flu levels, please explain why Sweden has got exactly the same thing happening. But in Sweden, they didn't wear masks, did they? And their vaccine program is nothing like ours, is it? And yet, no flu. I'm sorry, folks. you want to try and argue these things, I'm here to stand at the ground of people who say there are many reasons for this. Hello to Craig. Hello to Will. Chris Davis. Listen, Chris. Get yourself a good drink tomorrow night. Sit it down in front of you and man up for the 60 minutes of rock and roll rebellion we're going to have. We might have an argument tomorrow night. Not you and me, but, Rebecca doesn't hold my views on these things. The vaccine queen. Maybe if she sees this, she'd put her title tomorrow night as the vaccine queen. Anyway, they're trying to get us in masks. This is the whole aim of the game. And once they get us in masks, they're not letting us out of masks. Right. Next slide, please. I wanted to bring this one up. This is our glorious Prime Minister. Here he is, looking his usual disheveled mess. Boris says he feels guilty about his journalism. Well, my one response to that is, Boris, I feel guilty about the fact that you're our Prime Minister. You're an absolute omnishambles who has just gone along with whatever the prevailing wind is. And, rather than a Churchillian figure, which I saw some in the media laughably call you, you're much more of a Chamberlain type figure. Boris is embarrassed about things that he did back in the days when he used to think for himself a little bit more. Now he's told what to think and he knows what to say. Anyway, Boris Johnson, what a shambles, what a disgrace of a Prime Minister. By the way, Will, I agree with you. We need to scrap the Northern Ireland Protocol right away. Dead on, Will. You're absolutely right. And I was very pleased to see in my local village, there's a big banner up. I must take a photograph and I'll post it up on my social media saying, end the Irish Sea border now. Really great big banner. Excellent to see. Craig, I agree. Weak charlatan is about right. Calculating. Malcolm puts up Boris the potato in a wig. That's unfair, Malcolm. 2 potatoes. Anyway, now moving on. Again, these are all just random ones, so we're just going to chat about these and let me know what you think. Chris, keen to hear what you say in particular. Next slide, please. Yes. Now, again, I wanted to just look at this one because, as you know, Sweden has, generally speaking, confounded the lockdown fanatics out there. The Swedish figures don't suit them. They're very awkward. Well, guess what? As you can see in this slide, just want to talk you through this one. The yellow line at the end, that is now the reconciled number of deaths per million in Sweden in 2020 for the complete year. So you can see it's a little bit higher than 2019, which was a soft year. It's about in line with 15, 16, 17. It's a lot less than in the early noughties when it was much higher than that there. So in Sweden, I'm afraid this is decisive news and bad news for the lockdown fanatics. Sweden, which didn't mask up its people, which didn't shut down its economy and ruin its economy. Sweden, which kept its schools open largely. Sweden's done so much better than those countries like the UK, which is locked down so hard. Kim actually makes an intro. I just want to make a point that Kim says, Will makes a point. Yeah, sorry, Will. Will, could it be from low density Sweden, more akin to that of New Zealand? I mean, that is entirely a reasonable point, Will, to make, because here in low density Northern Ireland, the pandemic has made no statistical impact whatsoever. And similarly in the Irish Republic, and similarly in Wales. And I guess in Scotland, picture's a wee bit mixed, but you've got big concentration centres around Glasgow and Edinburgh. So maybe there is something about low population leads to lower levels of COVID infection. That's a very plausible case, actually. But it's still, nonetheless, doesn't explain why it is that is England so massively populated? Maybe it is that it's got such high death figures. But don't worry. Donny girl, no doubt about it. Sweden is definitely smaller than the US. That's for sure. But even in the US, Donny girl, there's lots of, variable death figures between the states. And of course, Florida, which is a wee bit like Sweden in the sense of it hasn't embraced the lockdown and the mask wearing fanaticism, it's doing extremely well. Meanwhile, California, which is locked down more often than anything else, has much more, much worse figures. So, from California to Sweden, lessons to be learnt. Here's a lesson. The next slide brings up an interesting point, though. I don't know. Let's do a quick poll on the stream here. Hands up, anyone who downloaded the NHS Track and Trace app. If you did, say yes. If you didn't, say no. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Even bigger spoiler alert, I won't be. There's just no way that I was prepared to download something as ludicrous as an NHS app. Yep, I see your views coming in, folks. Keep them coming there. Lee, Craig, Simon, Jed, all no. Philip, no. Yep, not one of you folks, nor did I. I thought it was going to be a really bad idea. And now, as we've just shown there in the picture, sorry, if we could just bring that last picture back up again, the NHS app is going to be converted for vaccine passports. The Times, no less, suggests. Can you imagine that? So your little NHS app, apart from tracking and tracing your movements, it's going to now be potentially your COVID vaccine passport. So if you go to the pub, just be a good boy or girl, get your jab, and carry your little passport around with you. I mean, they're vaccine passport crazy. It's incredible what's happening at the moment in the UK. It really, really is. And I'm sure you've seen all the stories. And a lot of it is, what they're doing is they're sort of saying to us, look, guys, let's be sensible. You've got to take the vaccine. Even if you don't need it, you've got to take the vaccine. It's just crucial to stop the spread, to keep Granny safe. And not everyone's doing that, you see. And in fact, the rate of vaccination has dropped off. So what they're doing is they're trying to sell you a bridge in the desert here, because what they're saying is get a jab, you'll get your vaccine passport, and then you'll be able to go on holiday. You'll be able to go to the footy. You'll be able to go to the pub. You'll be able to go to the restaurant. Life will return to normal if only you do this. And this is just my speculation, of course, I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm with Lee here, who says, looks like I'll be drinking and holidaying in my own back garden. Yeah, well, of course, actually, Lee, I think a lot of people will be holidaying in their own back garden, because if they think that just by getting the vaccine, this government has any intention of letting them out of the trap, far from it. In my view, once you've got your vaccine and once you've had your vaccine passport, they've got you for a long time. Now, I don't know if you watched my stream last night. I had a really interesting chap on, local guy, David McCullum, and very knowledgeable about a lot of these things. And, we're both sort of suggesting that just because they give you just because you have it on your phone, you got your phone and you've got your vaccine passport and that. But I mean, it's awkward. You don't always have your phone with you. So maybe, what do you think where do you think they might, other ideas they might have? Thanks, Chris. I'm glad you really enjoyed the show last night. I did. David will be back on the stream as well. He's got some really interesting insights and he knows what he's talking about. But yeah, rather than have it in your phone, what if you had a little chip? Tiny, you wouldn't even feel it. Little chip inside, and that, you could be like a superhero. You go up to the pub and you go, boom, let me in. And you get in. Of course, the bad people who don't have the little chips in their hand or who don't have the vaccination passport, well, they can sod off because they're risking everybody's health in ways which I don't quite understand, by the way. But Nick makes the point. It's always for the good of the people that walk into totalitarianism. Absolutely. For the greater good. Give up your freedom, but do it for the greater good. And that's exactly. Well, thanks, Ozzy, by the way. I will feed this back to David. those who watched the show last night. I think when someone like David, who's very versed in the medical aspects of the human body, because he's the gut guru. He understands how our bodies work, and his views I thought were most interesting to hear. But John says here, no sports for him. Well, I mean, I don't believe for one minute that things are going to be coming back the way the government's pretending they are. I mean, Boris has said, remember, at any point, this could all be reversed if there's a new mutant version. And that was a question that was asked last night. Did we think that there could be another mutant version of this coming along? Well, of course. It could come at any time from anywhere. I mean, all this nonsense about, but we're stopping people at the airport. We're making them quarantine for 10 days. It's not. If you think that's going to stop mutation in a global virus, I'm sorry. You've really got to be pretty slow. Simon says it's a 99.8% survival. 99.8 survival rate. It's actually that is on average, and that's true. But for the under 70 age cohort, Simon, it's actually even less than that. It's more like about it's an infinitesimally small likelihood of fatality. But anyway, this is what they want to get us into vaccine passports. Actually, Chris makes a point. I just put this up last night when we discussed this. My guest David said it would come out just before the second vaccine, and that's entirely possible. Because they're pushing as many first vaccines into people, and then they want to get the second vaccine. They're talking about a booster vaccine. So the question is, what would have to happen to make the masses keep going back for more jabs? What would have to happen? And I suspect, if more allegedly fearsome strains arise, that would help, wouldn't it? But of course, we don't know. But I do believe the likelihood of more strains, just because viruses mutate. I mean, why is this even controversial? We know that viruses mutate. However, we know that vaccines have to be changed to cope with mutations. So they're going all in this one. And I think the general plan is to give us a couple of COVID vaccines a year. And on the basis of that, we'll all be well and good. That we wait to see in that. But of course, part of the COVID agenda, this is what I needed to say to you, part of the COVID agenda has meant things like international travel coming to an end. In fact, not just international travel, but inter-UK travel. I mean, I'm across in places like London on a regular basis. I haven't been across in a year. So sad, because despite some things about London, which aren't good, there's still lots of nice places and nice things to do. But can't do that now because it's too dangerous. We've got to stay at home, hiding under the stairs, lest the awful virus gets us. Remember? Which brings us to our next slide. So I'm just going to bring up this one here. So we have David Attenborough. It has to be said, I don't mean to be cruel, but he doesn't really look his best in this. I don't know if we can zoom in on this one, but he doesn't look his best in the pic. Yeah, I mean, actually, he looks like I'll not say, but I don't think he was having a good day. Maybe with the hairdressers being closed, his hairs had to grow. But anyway, here's the point of the story. He's given a stark warning on climate change to the UN. Apparently, the end is in sight. Within a lifetime, entire cities and societies could be destroyed with climate change. Well, you'd need to have a heart of stone not to laugh at that one. Let's just focus on Mr. Attenborough for a moment. Isn't it strange that he gets the publicity? He's the guy that the BBC turned to. And not that many years ago, there was another prominent scientist called David Bellamy, who the BBC also liked. David Bellamy went across against the narrative, and David Bellamy disappeared from our screens. And David Attenborough took his place, because David Attenborough says what they want. But as for Mr. Attenborough's wild environmental alarmism, it is, as Jackie says here, Jackie points out, he's a globalist of the highest order. He absolutely is, Jackie. And that's why he's in the position that he's in. I mean, going back to that picture, I mean, in some regards, Attenborough looks like he resembles some of the things he used to see in the jungles in that picture. But, you know, his physical appearance notwithstanding, because we can all be criticized for our looks, he doesn't, you know, this Greta Thunberg level of alarmism, I reckon, you know, just doesn't, most people just laugh at it and ignore it. Jed is reminding me, by the way, I'll put it up here. Please remember, we have super chats on all live streams now. So if you really want to get my attention, hit the what's the word? Super chat. Hit the super chat. Chris has already done that, which means that all his questions I get to see. It's one way of me keeping up with what's going on, actually. Yeah, Attenborough, I mean, he's a fantasist. The notion that we are years away from global catastrophe, it's absolute nonsense. If you look at the science on it, I mean, the one issue that we probably should be concerned about is it's not global warming. It's the fact that in about 20, 30 years, I think we are going to go into a significant cooling period. Now, that cooling period has got nothing to do with mankind. In fact, if you think about it logically, the more we heat the planet up between now and then, the less intense and bad the cooling might be. Chris says, how long before they tell us the carbon levels are too high? Well, yeah, I mean, that's entirely possible, Chris, because it's a game. I mean, it's the same game that they're playing, Chris. On COVID, this is about the same thing, because the world is going to end tomorrow. That means you can't fly. You got to stop really traveling in your car. You got to stop heating your house the traditional way. Rip out your gas fires. Rip out your wood burners. You've got to consume less things that we decide. If you think about it, the climate change, the climate alarmist narrative and the COVID narrative, it's the same. It's exactly the same. Now you might say, why might that be? Well, that is a very different story altogether. Now, what's this? Craig says, it's not about climate, it's about money to be made from renewables. I think it's also about control, Craig, if I may say. It's about they want to control us. Joe says, 27th of January 2021, Council for Europe at European Parliament have said no mandatory vaccines and no discrimination against those who decline. I really do hope that someone takes the Pimlico plumbers, that guy, to court, and let's see if his insistence that new employees must have a COVID vaccine, if that stands up in court. Be really interesting to see if that is going to be the case. Jackie's right. I mean, our planet, the climate has been changing for even longer than I've been alive, which is longer than most of you. It's been changing for millions and billions of years, and it always will. That's the nature of this Earth's planet until this Earth is no more. But the fact that these people have hijacked something that's natural and they've weaponized it and they've turned it into a political thing is pretty deplorable, actually. That's the thing that we should be concerned about. And the way that they want to, I mean, Lee says it's very green to have the heating on and be told to throw your windows open to remove COVID particles. Oh yeah, that's very green. Yeah, and this is where it all links together. And of course, well, yes, Jackie, it could be what you mentioned in your. I'll put it up, the comment. I'll not say it too much because we're on YouTube and Facebook, and when it comes to controversial, so it's not really controversial. It's fact. We all know about the World Economic Forum, and we know exactly what they're about. Right, next slide, please. Let's move on. Let's rattle on. Yeah, this one amused me. It's not really funny, actually, but you need, again, a heart of stone not to laugh. Britain's coronavirus lockdown is one of the toughest in the world. Well, only Ireland, the only stricter Western nation. Well, gosh, you might say, good on Boris. He's locked us down, good and proper. What a great prime minister. And I mean, a lot of these fanatics for lockdown, they love this, by the way. They can't be locked down hard enough. But here's the interesting thing. Whilst we have one of the toughest lockdown regimes in the UK, we have also one of the highest death tolls for COVID in the world. Now, that's a bit of an awkward one for the lockdown fanatics, isn't it? Because the lockdown fanatics keep telling us that they're locking us down for our own good. But in parallel with that, the death tolls here in the UK are significantly higher than those other nations with much less intense death tolls. And again, as part of, actually, Will makes a couple of good points I want to bring up. Will says, first of all, the Irish government is insane for sure. However, it would be beneficial to work with them to establish a common trade area. But there's lots of things we could do. I want to see us all prosper better than that. But Chris also makes a very sad point. I did a little video on this the other day, Chris. I was thinking about you when I was doing it about, the pubs of Ireland, pubs of Dublin. And of course, the pubs of Dublin have been closed for a year. They're not going to be reopening. The Taoiseach has made it clear that early midsummer would be the earliest before they would even think about it. And so that's why I can't actually blame people like Simon who says, I'm moving to Florida, no mask and free. Funny that. Absolutely. People over in Florida going about their days, business, no masks, no lockdown, going to the bar, go into a restaurant, do what you want. That's life. That's the norm, not this freakery that we live in, which is very far from the norm. But as I say, the globalists are very intent to keep us, locked up as we are. And they use all kinds of methods. And one of the methods that they use, which I want to show you, is the next slide. If we can bring this one up, please. And this is YouGov, which is, of course, a very helpful ally to the government. And YouGov have helpfully done a poll, as you can see the poll here, and it says that 82% of Brits support requiring secondary school kids to wear a muzzle in school when they're unable to socially distance. I'm not even actually sure. That's not what the government's saying. The government is saying that in the classroom for 14 and over, as far as I understand it, they will be required to wear masks. Now, this is something, 82% is the YouGov figure. I saw Mike Graham, Mike from Talk Radio, on his Twitter page. He's run his own poll, and the percentages are the exact opposite. Roughly 78-80% are saying no, under no circumstances do we think that our kids should be wearing masks in the classroom. So as Ian puts up, good comment, excellent comment. There are lies, damned lies, and COVID polls. And that's the truth of the matter. Throughout all of this, and this is, we talked about this last night as well, it's fear management. It's fear management. Chris says, Mike Graham was furious with YouGov this morning. Actually, Chris, it's not the first poll that YouGov have done, which is remarkably convenient to government. I mean, I'm not suggesting for one moment, heaven forbid, that there would be any connection between YouGov getting these kind of very helpful results and YouGov being asked by government to do certain things. I would never suggest that. Anyway, moving on, I wanted to move back across the channel, if I may. I wanted to bring up, you may or may not know this guy. Can I bring this guy? This is Joe Biden's pick to be Attorney General, Merrick Garland. Now, Merrick Garland is the guy leading the attack on those protesters who were on Capitol Hill on the 6th of January. And he's going to make sure that, the full weight of the law comes down on them. Merrick Garland, Biden's Attorney General. Right, so that's what he's saying, and the media, the liberal media, love that. And then next slide, please. Merrick Garland again. Oh, look at this one. Merrick Garland has to address his role in dropping charges against the Capitol bomber, and this is right. This is a story. This is a great story. This one. So this guy, who's the attorney AG nominee from Biden. Back in 1983, Elizabeth Ann Duke was and it was shown to have been involved in the planning of the actual bombing of the Capitol building, right? In late 1983, there you see that radical left wings, members of resistance conspiracy, communist setup, bombed the Senate chambers of the Capitol building. They actually bombed it. She was one of them. But amazingly, and this is just the way the world's so crazy, folks, Garland worked to get her off. He had a significant role in discussing a misconduct complaint against a magistrate judge who improperly dismissed an indictment against her. So our friend Garland thinks, which is all part of the, by the way, the Obama years. The would-be Attorney General thinks that actual bombers have to be let off. That's fair enough, but those protesting who are, allegedly Trump supporters, they can't be punished hard enough. Do you ever think? Is it just a possibility that there's a massive double standard in public life out there at the moment? So I think that's a really, some interesting comments. Simon says he really fears where the US will be. Absolutely, Simon. I completely share that fear. Jackie says he's going to take down Durham, who's investigating voter fraud. Oh, yeah. There's going to be such a massive suppression of truth. It's going to be unbelievable. But hey, that's what happens when you vote in the Democrats. So let's just finish with Chris here. Just a couple of things here, a couple of comments. Ian says, Dr. Gold, a committed Christian, had her door battered down and was handcuffed for telling the truth. Her views on the vaccination business. Yeah, I saw that. And Chris says, Obama tried to get him on the Supreme Court. Yeah. Mind you, Chris, Trump appointed Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. How useful have they proven since November? I would suggest as useless as a chocolate teapot. So there is that aspect of things. You just wonder how deep. I remember the Bee Gees had a song, "How Deep Is Your Love?" They should recut that. How deep is the swamp? Because the swamp is incredibly deep. And honestly, I don't. You just can't be sure where the swamp ends and the resistance against it begins. Because, I thought Amy Coney Barrett was a constitutionalist. She didn't want to know about the honk November election. She didn't want to hear about that. But and the same with Justice Kavanaugh. They just didn't want to get involved. But we are where we are, so we'll see how that one pans out. Now, just before we finish, I actually haven't put this one up on my Twitter stream, or I'm sorry, my Gab stream and my Parler stream and my Minds and all the other platforms, but it has tickled my fancy. Did you see the story about Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola in the States mandating white employees to take a course on being less white. Did you see that? I wonder what your thoughts on that one on that one were. This is a large multinational corporation, and they're demanding that they're white. How does one become less white? I can't help my skin color. I never chose it. I am what I am. You shouldn't discriminate anyone on the skin color. Tawny says, woke Coke. LOL. Yeah, they are. They're really woke. Coke is the word. But if that was against any other ethnicity, they would be pilloried for it. They would be absolutely taken to the cleaners. But yet, when it's against white people, it seemed to be okay. And so I think that's deplorable. I stand with Martin Luther King, you shouldn't discriminate against anyone on the basis of their skin color. You shouldn't say to anyone, we want you to be less white, less brown, less black, less whatever. How can you possibly say that? If you're doing that, frankly, you are exercising racism. And I think all racism is wrong. I'm sure you'd all agree with me. And yet, that's exactly what we see with Coke. So we're going to finish in a second or two, not just yet, but we're going to finish with a little Coke spoof ad which I saw, and we play out in that one to finish the stream. But just trying to read that. So I'm just going to catch up with your final comments here before we go. Yeah, Chris, I'm not on Twitter. I'm glad I'm not on Twitter. The Twitter's a toxic, you know what, and I don't want to be associated with that. I am very pleased that Parler's back. There's 66,000 people following me over there. There's another 21,000 over in Gab. I'm kind of happy with that. You know what I mean? That's and of course, best of all, the left-wing little trolls, although they do pop over and take screenshots of my stuff and then post it on Twitter where I'm not. And then they allege other people on Twitter are me, which is untrue because they're not. It just amuses me how desperate they are. But Louise is right. Just drink less Coke. I think Pepsi's a reasonable alternative if you like sugary drinks. I can't say I do, actually, by the way, so it doesn't bother me. Jackie asked me, what do you prefer, Gab or Parler? At this point in time, Gab, because it works now, it works quite well. Parler's still going through a rebuild, I think, and we have to have a bit of patience with Parler. So, but I do hope you will look me out over there, folks. Those of you who enjoyed me on Twitter, you get the same content on Gab and on Parler and on Minds as well. If you go onto Minds and sign up on Minds, you can see me over there as well. So there's lots of social media platforms. Twitter's just one. Twitter's day has come and gone, in my opinion. So from my point of view, I really don't care for being on it. So Jackie said, yeah. Donny Girl says, I'm glad my kids aren't in school anymore. Yeah, I know what you mean. Jackie agrees with her in that there. It is it's kind of sad, the way that the Marxists have grabbed control of education and are twisting young minds and imbuing them with all kinds of radical leftism. Pretty, Chris, thank you, Chris. You're an absolute star tonight. Give me a punch over on Rumble. I am on Rumble channel as well for my video work. I'm also on Bitchute for my video work. So as you can see, folks, I am across the piece. And thanks, Darren, for the kind comment following me in Gab and Parler. Actually, Jed makes a very good point to me. I keep forgetting about this. But over in Gab, just for Brits, well, for everybody, but I created a little group on Gab called, I think it's British United. And it was just a spot for British people who have decided to abandon the toxic cesspit of Twitter, and they want to come on to Gab, and they can talk to other Brits. And I think we've got well over 1,200 people or so over there. So you can be part of a little sort of British group if you're British. But hey, listen, you don't have to be British to follow me, and you're very welcome on my streams, regardless of that. British United, Chris Davis, again, comes to my rescue tonight. Thank you, Chris. So look, that's it from me for tonight. I'm going to, just before we finish with a little video, what's this? We've got Ozzy saying, get on Gab. Yep, get on Gab. Ozzy, I know I see your contributions over on British United, by the way, which are really good. Thank you for your support over there. Yeah, tomorrow night I'll be back with a live stream with Rebecca Butler. And as you know, Rebecca and I don't see eye to eye on some stuff, but I still like to have her on. And tomorrow night we're going to have a robust conversation, I would think, on the topic of the vaccine passports and some of the strange things I've even talked about earlier tonight. The fact that death rates are falling as quickly in nations that haven't vaccinated as in nations that have vaccinated. We're going to talk about all that, but it should be interesting. And Rebecca's always worth hearing. As I said, we do have to respect people who hold different views. That's the whole point of everything, really. So listen, I'm basically going off to have a Pepsi, not a Coke. And without further ado, can we please say adieu and play the video, after which I'm gone. Good night, folks. See you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Play Coca-Cola video, please.